Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the one and only Rumboyz Fantasy Network. It's your boy, RumboyzRobbie. Make sure that you guys hit the like button. Also, share the content and subscribe. All right, subscribe to the channel. Turn this Rumboyz plaque into a silver play button. All right, you would be part of the mission of not just helping us accomplish our dreams as independent sports analysts, but you'd be a part of that mission. Okay. Trying to hook everybody up. Mike, Taco, Gator, all the contributors here. Treat all of you guys. We love you. We appreciate you. Thank you for sharing the content. Thank you for liking the content. Thank you for enjoying this series, Fantasy Football Friendly. Fantasy Football Friendly. This is the show, if you do not already know, where we go through, we break down all the skill positions per each team from a fantasy football standpoint. Sometimes the takes may or may not be too friendly. At the end of the series or at the end of the episode, I go ahead and I give a grade on what I think about this team, and I go through and I kind of give you cliff notes of how I feel about it. All right. Let's go ahead. Let's dive right into it. I am rocking my GLD. Get like me. Shout out to GLD. Shop GLD. Link is in the description. You already know. Let's dive right into it. Fantasy Football Friendly, where we're gonna go ahead. We're gonna start off with the quarterback, Russell Wilson. All right. First off, cheers to me. Cheers to you, all the boys and girls. What it do? Dilly dilly. Got my coffee. Russell Wilson has been nursing a calf injury. All right. First, we're just gonna start off with the news out of training camp. So it has been Justin Fields with the ones. All right. So we have yet to see kind of, Russ interact with the offense, kind of get things moving. It's been about 4 or 5 days that he's been nursing that calf injury. I feel like it would be nothing to fret about. I do believe that this quarterback competition may be a little bit closer than what people could possibly imagine. Maybe potentially kind of sort of yes, in a way. At the end of the day, I do believe that come week 1, it will be Russell Wilson as the starter. With this being an Arthur Smith offense and Russell's ability to extend plays with his legs and be able to pick up yards with his legs, of course, you're not going to get like 2016 Russell Wilson, right? You're not getting, or 2015, you're not getting Mr. Unlimited by any means. You're not getting dangerous. This is dangerous. He's 35 years old. He's not exactly a spring chicken anymore. Where you could be getting, 553 yards on the ground with him. That's really where I feel like Russell Wilson's upside is. Consensus has him as QB 27. Last year, Russell Wilson, even with a trash Denver receiving core around him, while playing for a coach in Sean Payton last year, who didn't really, it felt like, have Russell's best interests at heart. Didn't feel like the team was fully bought in on Russell Wilson, so on and so forth. He still finished last year at QB 14 overall. All right, Russell Wilson still finished QB 14 last year. So clearly there is still something there. What that something is yet to be determined. In terms of quarterbacks that you could be getting around that Russell Wilson range, Derek Carr, Baker Mayfield, Aaron Rodgers, Kirk Cousins, I would gladly run any one of those. Guys are kind of maybe going after Russ, Watson, Sam Darnold, Gardner Minshew. Don't know if I really want to run any of those options. By the time that you start getting towards those quarterbacks, once you start getting to the Derek Carr, Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson, Sam Darnold conversation of that quarterback tier, I would be hoping that for the sake of your roster construction, depending obviously on how your scoring format is, that you would have already locked in 2 QBs already. You would have already locked in a Jordan Love and a Trevor Lawrence, or of Patrick Mahomes and a Matthew Stafford. Like if you're playing in a 2 QB format, I would hope that by the time that we start having the conversation of fuck, like my QB1 or my QB2, hopefully you're not, once we get into this tier, you're not looking at any of these as potential QB1s, but running Derek Carr, Russell Wilson, Watson, maybe Watson could maybe get it together this year. Never mind. I'm not going to make any Watson jokes. I was so about to. I was about to go to a very dark place, but I was like, let's not do that. But yeah, I mean, maybe some of those guys could be manageable. QB2s could be serviceable QB2s. I'd want maybe a little bit more firepower, a little bit more reliability, a little bit more consistency. Russell Wilson is going into a better situation in Pittsburgh, though. It seems like Tomlin is trusting both him and Fields. So how that's going to work out, it's interesting. I do believe, though, that Russell Wilson will be the starter. I mean, geez, they have fucking Justin Fields returning punts and kicks and shit. But don't get it twisted. Fields has looked damn good throughout training camp. Let's get into the backfield, because this is where the fantasy value really lies with this team. Okay. Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren, you kind of have to talk about them in the same breath, mainly focusing on Najee. Najee has had 3 seasons of 1,000+ yards. All right. Last year, last year, 1,000 yards, at least 8 total touchdowns, 1,200 total yards. Still kind of felt like a little bit of a letdown in regards to Najee. We weren't fully bought in. We weren't fully bought in on Najee. The touchdowns, though, are there as well. I mean, 2021 7, 2022 7, 2023 8. 2021 1,200 yards, 2022 1,034, 2023 1,035. So 1,000-yard rushing for Najee is pretty much, when we look at the season-long scope, is the floor. All right. And I'm definitely okay with that as my flex. If I could get either of these running backs as my flex, as my, as one of my flex pieces, I'd be satisfied with that. If they're falling in that RB2 range, if like I'm depending on them as like an RB2, I mean, it can be a thing. It can happen. Najee Harris, RB24 per consensus. He was RB30, ranking 29th in snap share and 26th in opportunity share, as he split with Warren last year, who we're going to talk about next. He still finished 6th in carries and 8th in red zone touches among running backs. That's where those touchdowns are really, really coming from. So you got to love that. Wasn't utilized much in the pass game. Was not great. Only a 7.9 target share, ranking about 33rd, while ranking 49th in route participation. So they don't utilize Najee so much in the passing game. He's more so utilized in the red zone, run zone, and also in between the tackles, to get in between the gaps. Warren is who you're going to want in the passing game. I wouldn't mind if your strategy when approaching this backfield were to be pass on Najee and go for Warren. That is something that I have done in the past. You guys, if you're a longtime subscriber, you know this about me. As long as these two have been in tandem, you know that I've always preached, hey, Warren is a guy. Warren is a beast. Warren was amazing down the stretch. Harris was amazing down the stretch as well, though, as this offense started running the ball and started getting in between the tackles a little bit more. So that could play into it. It's Arthur Smith. They are going to run the ball a lot more, all right, which I am confident in. So maybe there is some improvement here. I would personally rather Jaylen Warren over Najee Harris. Jaylen Warren, RB30, okay, per consensus, whenever I take a look at the homies over at Fantasy Pros. Jaylen Warren, the way he runs and the way he's so elusive, For those that watch UFC, like if you remember, like for all my old heads out there, if you remember Lyoto Machida and how elusive Machida was in the ring and how you couldn't really hit him, or boxing reference, how elusive Floyd Mayweather was, where it's like you're just hitting air. That's Jaylen Warren. Jaylen Warren trying to tackle Jaylen Warren. You're grabbing at air. Like the dude is so elusive. He can hurdle. He can juke. He can do it all. He's great out the backfield. Yes. He's Jaylen Warren for me. When I look at roster construction, how I say that Najee is more so the flex piece. Jaylen Warren, 50% of the time, was an RB2 or better last season. Like literally 50% of the time, he was RB2 or better in 50% of his games. I'm willing to pay the price for well, actually, with Jaylen Warren, you don't have to pay the price. You don't have to. This is when you look at the Roll Tide fan, the Bama fan in your league, and you're like, bro, you know you want Najee. Come on, man. You know you want Najee. Just so that you can make sure that you can lock in Warren. 12th in yards per route ran, 5th in targets per route run. Basically, damn near outperformed Najee in every single metric. Finished third in explosive run rate, first in missed tackles, forced per attempt, second in yards after contact per attempt. Like, come on. Like, finished RB29 in fantasy points per game in a running back by committee. I wouldn't be shocked if they're like, you know what, you're gonna be our lead back. I wouldn't be shocked if he starts getting a higher percentage of the snaps. Bet on Warren over Najee. And you could be around the time where you're looking for your flex plays. You've already got, think about it. At this point in the draft, when we're talking about Najee Harris and we're talking about Jaylen Warren, you've likely already locked in your QB1 and your QB2. You've likely already locked in your receivers. You've likely already locked in RB1 and RB2. Or maybe you're looking for RB2. Jaylen Warren can be RB2 on your roster. Jaylen Warren or Najee can be flex plays on your roster. And I feel like that they're top-end, top-value flex plays. So that's where really the value lies within this roster. Want to get into talking about the pass catchers here. And I'm actually going to work this a little bit differently. Normally, I would go for the receiver first. I'm going to talk about the tight end. All right. I want to talk about the tight end. Pat Fryermuth's first 2 seasons averaged about anywhere between 9.5, 9.9 fantasy points per game. 9.5 and 9.9 fantasy points per game. His first 2 seasons in the league. All right. So, you know, it doesn't get better. It's about 6.4 in 2023. But that was also due to quarterback play. Some people are like, oh, well, you know, Robbie, aren't you worried about, you know, Arthur Smith being there? Like, I mean, kind of look at how that worked out for Kyle Pitts last year, et cetera, et cetera. I don't give a damn. I don't give a damn. At tight end 16 ADP, if I'm missing out on Laporta, Kittle, Kelsey, Hawkinson, you know, Njoku, Evan Ingram. Dog, I'm looking at Fryermuth as a starter, as a week-to-week starter for me. I personally feel that he has probably the most reliable hands of all the pass catchers on this team. Personally, that is a me thing. I understand maybe some wanting to proceed with caution. I get that, but I mean, come on. You got to give my man's a shot. You got to give my man's an opportunity. Finished tight end 30 last year. I don't think that happens again. I personally don't think that happens again. So that's something that I really want to point out. He had a hamstring injury that costed him 5 games. He had 7 touchdown catches as a rookie in 2021. Only scored 2 touchdowns in 2022, but had amazing yardage, finishing with 63 receptions and 732 yards. He's gonna be fine. He's gonna be fine so long as he's healthy this year. Like I said, when we start talking about when you miss out on the major key tight ends, the Laportas, the Kelseys, the so on and so forth, when you start looking at the middle of the pack, the middle of the ranks, when you miss out on a Dalton Kincaid, Pat Freiermuth is a guy that I'm always willing to run it with. All right. I'm always willing to run it with. I think, let me just see something here. I want to see something here. Let me look at a couple of other rankings. So some people are even saying he could go as high as tight end 9. Some people are even ranking him as high as tight end 9. Okay. And that's per the 33rd team. That's per Fantasy Pros. So Razzball. So some reliable sources, Matt Harmon from Yahoo putting him at tight end 11, ranking him as tight end 11. I'm higher on Freiermuth probably than most. All right. So I want to make sure I really take time to make sure you guys know to go walk away with Freiermuth. Next, we are going to talk about George Pickens. All right. There's no Deontay Johnson. Just like we were talking about with Freiermuth, how Freiermuth is going to be the recipient because he also has the most reliable hands. With no Deontay Johnson, consensus has George Pickens as wide receiver 26. All right. Last season, probably, Pickens' best campaign, finishing wide receiver 36 of fantasy points per game. Out of 81 qualifying receivers, he ranked 20th in yards per route run and 44th in first downs per route run, while drawing a 20.8% target share and a 39% air yard share, all courtesy of fantasy points data. Not impressed. Like, here's my analysis with George Pickens. This is a RumboyzRobbie person, like personal thing. Okay. If you like the highlight reel play, the circus play type of receivers, if that's your style, then George Pickens is definitely the pick for you. If you need a glass half full take to maybe make that a little bit better in weeks 2 through 5, when there was no Deontay Johnson last season, his target share climbed up to 27.1% and air yard share stood at a whopping 50.1%. So if that's, and he was wide receiver 16 in fantasy points per game. Russell Wilson, obviously a much better quarterback than that of Kenny Pickett. Justin Fields, better than Kenny Pickett. So maybe that could be better, but you're looking at a wide receiver 3 at best. And at that point, I mean, you can there's other players down in that range. I think maybe you'd want. I wouldn't mind George Pickens as a flex or wide receiver 3. I feel like this roster is better for flex plays, better for 2s and 3s. You're not starting anyone here as a wide receiver 1. Speaking of wide receiver 2s, Roman Wilson did roll his ankle today in training camp, so that is news hot off the press. To my knowledge, the only negative injury news that came out of camp today. I am high on Roman Wilson. I am high on Roman Wilson. He was Michigan's best receiver last year. 48 receptions, 789 yards, and 12 touchdowns as a senior at Michigan. 37% dominator rating, sixth highest in his entire class. People want to talk about him being 23. You know, it took a while to break out. I don't give a fuck about that. All right, I really, really, really don't care. For Roman Wilson, it's going to be a similar situation to like Michigan, where Michigan was super run heavy. Pittsburgh's going to be super run heavy. So it's just about him making the most of his opportunities, which I think that he will as soon as he returns back, whenever he returns back from the Steelers. It's training camp. Let's take it easy. I know you want to get this guy, you know, rolling and grooving, because the rest of your receiving room with, you know, Van Jefferson, Scotty Miller really isn't that sexy. Want to get into talking about diamonds in the rough. Always got to talk about diamonds in the rough. There's only one on this team, and that's Justin Fields, who per consensus ADP is QB 28. Justin Fields is a monster on his legs. You know, can extend plays with his legs, which is great that he's going to be learning from Russell Wilson. I think he'll be able to pick up a lot of great things from Russell Wilson. He's looked phenomenal in camp. Like I mentioned at the beginning of this episode, with Russell Wilson kind of nursing that calf injury right now, Justin Fields is the guy. All right. He's been taking the snaps with the ones. Justin Fields has been making Pickens kind of grow on me a little bit, and making Pickens look like a standout, and looking like someone that can very well exceed their ADP. With that being said and stated, at what point are we going to see Fields? I don't know. I know that we've been hearing reports that he's been returning, you know, and working with the return team. That's going to be something that's interesting. They fucking use him as a returner in the Madden commercial, which was wild. New kickoff rules will make things wild. And if your league kind of has things of that nature, maybe Fields is a guy that you could pick up. But I'm saving this for the waiver wire. I'm saving this as a watch list. I think that we'll see Justin Fields at some point, being that 6th-round pick that was exchanged to acquire Justin Fields from Chicago could also turn into a 4th-round pick, dependent on playing time. So we'll see how that whole situation works out. Other than that, it is time for us to grade this team. The quarterback situation is not sexy. The receiver situation is not sexy. The running backs are, you're drafting them with the expectation of flex plays, RB2s at best. Jaylen Warren's better than Najee, the lead back. When you're 2 on your depth chart's better than your 1. It's a little bit weird there. And then Pat Freiermuth, probably, like I said, the most reliable hands on this team. That's who I would be, you know, targeting. That's who I feel is your safe bet. That's the one that I'm really going after out of everyone on this team. With that being said, with that being stated, I am going to go C-. I was about to change it on the fly, but I'm going to leave it at a C-. I almost brought that down to a D+. This is a C- with hope. This is still Mike Tomlin. This team is still going to win games, obviously. It's just how fantasy friendly this team is going to be rough. Even when Pittsburgh wins games, they won ugly last year. Their wins last year were ugly. You know, it's a very gritty, punch you in the mouth style of football that the Steelers play. This team, for the most part, is full of flex plays, is full of depth pieces. And it's the perfect team to be able to kind of have those pieces, you know, on a week in, week out basis. I don't think that you'll have maybe weeks where Pickens wins you your week, but I think that comes less times than not. All right. It's a lot. It's a lot. Then you have the quarterback situation. Fans are going to want to see Justin Fields at a certain point. Not exactly sure how I feel. Nothing really gets me too excited about this offense outside of Pat Freiermuth. C minus is fair. The fact that they have a quarterback that they can rely on if something were to happen with Russell Wilson keeps them at a C minus. Almost was a D plus. Almost was a D plus, ladies and gentlemen. Woo! That one was tough to grade. Cheers to me. Cheers to you all, the Rum Boys and Girls. What it do? Make sure you guys keep checking out the content. Keep sharing the content. We love and appreciate all of you. We are outie.